All right, guys, so I'm in between meetings right now, but I wanted to share a private conversation that I had with 30 entrepreneurs and creators. I'm talking folks that run 8-figure companies to people that have 500,000 followers online, right? Now, I put together this group of folks to have a private conversation with Sahil Bloom. If you don't know who that is, please look into him. He came from the VCPE world, and he is now a full-time content creator and author. He has a New York Times best-selling book right now, and he flew down to Atlanta to have a private conversation with the 30 of us in a mansion. You guys know me and my vibe. There is enough out there for us to all win. So I wanted to make sure that y'all, whoever sees this, has an opportunity to hear this conversation, hear some of the questions that folks in the room asked, and just all that good stuff. Kind of be a pseudo fly on the wall to the conversation that we had with Sahil Bloom. So with that, my friends, let's get into it. Please welcome Sahil Bloom.
Thank you. Oh, I like it. Good.
Yeah. I feel like we're the only ones that.
Where did you find that? That's good research. That's good research. I'm impressed. I'm impressed.
Girl on fire. Would you like to maybe explain why?
The story of that song?
Yeah. If you guys didn't hear Sahil say, where'd you find that?
I am naturally sort of a nervous public speaker. For the longest time in my life, I was a really nervous public speaker. And so I was always looking for little tips and tricks and hacks, ways that I could make myself less nervous when I was going out and speaking, especially as I was starting to build the skill early on in my sort of change in my life. And one of the ways that I did that was by trying to get people to laugh really early on in a talk. It sort of cuts the tension in the whole room, makes you feel more comfortable, etc. And so I was giving a talk, I feel like this is maybe summer of 2023 at this company called ConvertKit. It's like a newsletter sponsor platform. I was giving a talk at their conference and they asked what song I wanted to enter to, and I hadn't thought about it. And I decided on Girl on Fire because I was like, I can get a cheap laugh out of the crowd to just start the thing. So it came on, and at the time it was my 1-year-old son's favorite song for whatever reason. And so it came on, and I was like, you're probably wondering why a guy just entered to Girl on Fire. And so I got to get the cheap laugh, cut the tension in the room, and it really does work. So if any of you are a little nervous when you give presentations or things, find a way to get a laugh early on, and it definitely cuts the tension.
I love that. Well, welcome.
Yeah.
Thanks for coming. Thanks for coming down here. I was telling the squad here, and I'll go more into this later. But it was a cold DM, a response, and no hesitation from you to just say, oh, ATL? Sure, I'll fly down. So thank you for being here. I know we have a hard kind of time here, and so I wanted to respect that time. So you'll see me looking down for some questions here. And then I'll open it up if you guys have questions. So if you guys have questions, I'll talk for about 20 or so minutes, and then I'll open it up for you guys. Sound good? Yeah. Cool. All right, so Sahil, your perspective on wealth changed, or at least stated in the book, changed when you were having dinner with a friend, and that friend kind of broke down hey, you might only have 15 more times to see your parents before they die, right? Talk to me about that moment and that conversation, what you were feeling, how that single conversation kind of reshaped everything that followed.
So I had spent the first really 30 years of my life. I was going to say the first 7 years, which was my career, but really the first 30 years of my life playing all of the games that you're kind of told you should want to play. I have an Indian mother who is very, as a lot of Indians are, very academically oriented from a family standpoint. My father's a professor at Harvard, so even more so on the other side. And I sort of felt like my whole upbringing and childhood, I was really just focused on what could I do to make other people think I was successful. It was always about doing the things that were going to get me the pats on the back. And a lot of that, if I'm being honest, was grounded in this sort of insecurity that I had felt from a young age. I have an older sister who's very high achieving. And from a young age, for whatever reason, I had told myself this story that I wasn't very smart. And the thing about those stories that you tell yourself is that you will find evidence to confirm whatever that story is. And that can be a great thing or a very, very bad thing. If you tell yourself that you're not very smart, I guarantee you will find evidence to confirm that story. And you will ignore every single piece of evidence that would refute it. So no matter how much my parents told me that it wasn't true or said things or I found evidence, I would just ignore it and continue to find the evidence that was confirming that. And what happens when you kind of create that insecurity is that you just look for external solutions to that internal problem. The easiest way to get those external solutions in the society we live in is to get money or status. You basically go and try to win the prizes that everyone tells you are valuable because those will make you feel better. And you assume that you're going to wake up one day, have reached the top of whatever mountain, the bonus, the promotion, the title, whatever the thing is, and that you're going to wake up and feel good all of a sudden. You're going to have arrived. And I had done that. Over the course of the first 7 years of my career, I was chasing all of those things, trying to reach whatever mountain it was. I would get there and have that familiar feeling of the kind of reset. You're like, oh, is this it? I thought that I was going to feel different. I thought I was going to one day just feel good. And unfortunately, along that journey, while I was on the outside looking in, sort of winning the game, a lot of things in my life had started to really show cracks. And it was a little bit like the metaphor of the boiling frog, where if a frog jumps into a pot of boiling water, it'll immediately jump out. But if you put a frog into lukewarm water and start bringing it to a boil, it won't realize until it dies. And because those slow changes that happen over long periods of time, we don't notice them. And so all of these things were happening. I was not seeing my parents. My relationship with my sister, unfortunately, had ground to a halt. My wife and I were unfortunately struggling to conceive at the time. That was creating strain in our relationship. And all of these things had started to suffer at a time when on the outside looking in, it was like everything was going well. And by the end of 2020, I had started to have this sensation that if that was what winning felt like, I had to be playing the wrong game. And this all came to a head in this one conversation in May of 2021. I went out for a drink with this old friend. We sat down, he asked how I was doing. And I said that it was starting to get difficult. These things were building up. I was living so far away from my parents, who I'd grown up very close to. And he just asked how old they were. And I said mid-60s. He asked how often I saw them, and I admitted that it was about once a year at that point. And he just said, okay, so you're going to see your parents 15 more times before they die. And I just remember feeling like I'd been punched in the gut. The idea that the amount of time you have left with the people you care about most in the world is that finite and countable, that you can just put it onto a few hands. That just shook me to the core. And in that moment, I realized that if we didn't make a change, if we didn't take an action, we were going to end up somewhere where we didn't want to be. So the next day, my wife and I had a very candid conversation about what we wanted to be our center in our own life, what our true north really was, what were we actually trying to build towards. And we took a really significant action, which was I left my job that I had been at, this like high status, good sounding job. We sold our house in California and moved 3,000 miles across the country to live closer to both of our sets of parents. And in that one decision, there was a really profound realization, which was you are actually much more in control of your time than you think. That number, 15, we took an action and turned it into the hundreds. I see my parents multiple times a month. They're a huge part of my son, their grandson's life now. We took an action and actually created time for the things that we really care about. And that was the spark that changed everything, because that was what started to get me to think about this idea that building a wealthy life, building the life you actually want, goes so far beyond the surface level understanding of what we think, which is just money. There is so much more to building that good, fulfilling, content life and existence that we're all after. And unless you measure for that, you can't make decisions for it along the way. You're just going to be chasing it blindly. It's going to be in the back of your mind as this thing you kind of know but aren't actually acting on. And that was what started this entire journey that has now culminated in being able to release this into the world.
I love that. This action of deciding to quit your job, move 3,000 miles across the country, it sounds great when you share that. I think even for myself, I put myself in your shoes, and I have been there, right? I was in strategy consulting after I left Northwestern, and then I was at Stripe. And I remember feeling very similar things. It took me about a year to actually make that decision. But I want to hear more from you as to did you just wake up, decide, and go? Did you plan? What were some of the tactical things that came out of deciding to do that?
So the way that I think about this is you could kind of call it like the leap of faith. Like you go take this big, bold, dramatic action, this big change in your life. And that's really scary. And the reason it's so scary, just functionally, is because of what I think of as like two asymmetries. You have an information asymmetry, meaning you have a lot of information about where you currently stand, what your current life looks like, and very little information about what your life looks like on the other side, the life that you are trying to go build. And then an evidence asymmetry, meaning you have a ton of evidence about your ability to build your life where you currently are. You know you can pay your bills, you know you can take care of your people, do these things. You have no evidence about your ability to do that on the other side of this leap. And so those two asymmetries manifest as this fear. You're standing on the edge of a cliff, there's this enormous expanse with nothingness below, and then the life you want is all the way on the other side. Your responsibility, the way that you make this less scary, this leap of faith less scary, is you close those two asymmetries by gathering information and by creating evidence. Functionally, that's all it's about. It's about understanding more information about what the other side looks like. That's conversations with people, it's going out and networking, it's building the relationships, it's doing those things. And then it's creating evidence, getting your first customer, building a landing page for the thing you're trying to do. Going and actually like creating some traction around the product, testing things, doing those little, tiny little actions that create the little bit of momentum to convince you that you actually can live your life and take care of your people on the other side. At that point, once you've done that, the leap of faith doesn't feel quite as leapy. It feels like more of a step over a little gap. And that was really what I had unknowingly done over the kind of year leading up to this. When COVID started, I started writing. That was not with any intention of I was going to like quit my finance job to be a writer. That was just, I had a ton of energy for writing. And from the second I started doing it, it was sort of like a little side project hobby. I started writing on Twitter. I had 500 followers at the time. This is May of 2020. I just really enjoyed it. And I just found that it was resonating with people. The way I was communicating, my storytelling was getting better. It was just a really fun, energizing pursuit. And what I have found over and over again in my own life is when you lean into things that are actually creating energy in your life, you generate the best outcomes. And that applies to pursuits from a professional standpoint, just as much as relationships. When you lean into relationships that create energy in your life, the people, when you spend time with them, they make you want to go run a lap around the building after because you're so energized by them. Leaning into those relationships, good things happen. Leaning away from the ones that are draining you, that make you feel like you need to take a shower after you spend time with them, also a good thing. And that, for me, was really the path. It was creating evidence, it was gathering information, so that when the moment came, that opportunity, that big shift, the conversation, it didn't feel in my mind quite as crazy. The one thing I will say is the other big challenge with leaps of faith is that no one will understand it except for you. There is no one that will believe in you in those moments. I mean, I cannot tell you the number of people that just assumed I had burned out or just thought I was crazy or like throwing it all away. I had a mentor, former mentor now, I suppose, who told me that he thought it was gonna be the worst decision I ever made. And I kind of laugh at it, kind of like big fuck you now, right? Yeah, bad decision, right? I sent him a copy of the book actually and just gave him a little thumbs up. I am so petty like that with certain things. Like when someone did something, I'm just like, really, that one felt good. But people won't understand it. And those leaps of faith are very lonely as a result because you are fundamentally jumping out of the environment that you previously understood. And that includes the people that previously felt like your people. You'll feel like for a period of time, you no longer speak the same language as the people you were previously connected to. And that can be really challenging. The reframe that helped me during that period was to recognize that that period of loneliness is a sign of personal growth. It's actually the cost of entry for the life that you're trying to build. Everyone has to go through that in order to get and find their people on the other side. Frankly, the people like all of you who are sitting in this room, that is the people that you are trying to build towards and attract into your world. People who are excited about growth, who are excited about wanting to develop and change. I didn't really have that in my life before. I was surrounded by a bunch of people who were really focused on money and status and all the things that were sort of the currency of the world that I was living in. And that was probably the most challenging piece of the whole transition, was navigating that valley of feeling like no one understands you. I was very fortunate that my wife believed in me before I believed in myself during that change. And having that one person that kind of gives you permission when you don't even feel like you can give yourself the permission to do that can be so powerful in your world.
Oh, I love that. I love that. To write this book, I think I've heard you say this, or I read this. There was research that even went into this book in the form of talking to, I think, thousands of folks, right? And for the folks in this room that know me, I love research, I love theses. And so hearing that you talk to so many people was amazing. I want to know, from the talks that you've had with all these folks to inform even this book, what were some of the things that surprised you when you sit down and ask these folks, like, what constitutes a wealthy life?
Yeah, it's funny because initially when I was starting to think about these ideas of trying to understand what a good life looked like, the first thing I did was the classic like student thing, which was I went to start reading. And I just started reading books. I was like, oh, I'm just going to learn about this in a book. I'm going to study it. And very quickly I realized that to understand something human, you actually have to spend time with humans. You actually need to go and study the human experience. And you can't really understand that through reading a book. I was very fortunate in some ways in that I had this newsletter that I sent out twice a week over the last 4 years that is like a magnet for interesting people coming back to me. Like the responses that I get every single week to the newsletter from people in different walks of life, how things are relating to them, that started to spark these natural, interesting conversations because people would send a response to something saying, hey, I had this experience and the thing you wrote connected with me in this way, which would lead to then me spending time with them and sitting down and having conversations. And several of the stories in the book are actually from people who had reached out to me naturally from these sort of luck magnets that I was putting out into the world in the form of these newsletters. The most interesting thing was just the realization that we basically all want the same things. And they have very little to do with money as the actual end goal. Money was a tool, but not the goal. And that realization was the unlock, that people start pursuing money in our early years because it very directly buys happiness. We know that. In the early years, it's Maslow's hierarchy of needs. You can take care of your basic people. You start getting the early basic pleasures. You can, have food, shelter, all of those things. That is money buying happiness in those early days. But once you create this pattern in your mind that incremental money equals incremental happiness, that pattern is the most dangerous thing that we face. Because humans are very bad at breaking patterns that we've already created in our minds. It goes back to that whole story we tell ourselves thing. And so what happens to people is they have that pattern in their mind, and it held true for the first 20 or 30 years of your life. It is no longer the case. It's no longer true, but you think it is. And so you continue chasing money, thinking if I ring the money bell, I'll get the cheese, for the next 50 years of your life, losing sight of all of the other things that are actually more important in creating the life you want after that point. That realization, that understanding, that came from meeting people across all different walks of life, different ages, different backgrounds, all over the world. That was the big, big unlock.
Let's transition a bit to the Life Raiser. I think I was telling you, that was for me selfishly one of the, or I should say this exercise has been a little selfish exercise. But that was one of the biggest things for me in the book. And I think it's early in chapter 1, 2, or 3, where you kind of like introduce this thing. And it completely shifted how then I started making decisions. I'm a person that as soon as you give me information, I change everything. But tell me about your Life Raiser. And more so, like, what was going on in your life where you said, hey, I need to make some changes. I need to think of this Life Raiser, or come up with something better to inform the decisions or the life trajectory that I'm on right now.
Yeah. So the concept, for those who haven't read it yet, the concept of the Life Raiser is this idea of having a single identity defining statement for your life. Something that allows you to kind of navigate the various opportunities and chaos that come into your world and cut through the noise. A razor is like a rule of thumb that simplifies decision making. That idea of having that and having it front and center in your life is so powerful. It's actually my favorite idea in the whole book for that reason, because I have experienced the value of having that over and over and over again. I literally have mine on my desk on a little note card that sits right in front of me, because I know there are always going to be things that come up in my life, good or bad, that are going to test me in different ways. It's like that feeling of being in the blizzard and you kind of can't see anything in front of you. It's like you're kind of totally blind to what the long-term vision is. And having this clear sense of, okay, but I know who I am when I show up as my ideal self. I know how my ideal self shows up in the world. What would that person do in this situation? That has helped me a million times over, in good and bad. I mean, I'll give you some examples. So my life razor is that I will coach my son's sports teams. He is 2.5 now, so he's not on any sports teams. And a lot of people, I've gotten pushback on this from a few people. I've gotten pushback on this from a few people because they think that I am saying that I want him to play sports, or that I'm like forcing him into a career in sports. It could be ballet, it could be drama, whatever he's into, it doesn't matter. My point is, I'm the type of person who shows up as a husband and father, as a supportive and loving person, and that is my center. That is the thing that I care about most in the world. In my own life, there have been a few times. Recently, I had a situation where I was working on something for this book launch, focusing in my office, and my son burst in through my office doors. I work at home. He started like doing 2.5-year-old boy stuff. He was throwing things around, terrorizing my office, just causing a whole bunch of ruckus in the background. And I started to get really annoyed. I was like, that feeling of complaining about the situation and why is he doing this? This is so annoying. Doesn't he see I'm working? You know, shouldn't someone come take it? Like all of these thoughts. And I looked at my desk where I have this thing that says, I will coach my son's sports teams. And in that moment, it snapped me back to 4 or 5 years ago, when my wife and I were 2 years into this journey of struggling to conceive. And I had prayed every single night for 2 years that we would one day have a healthy child. And there I was in that moment, complaining about the exact thing that I had prayed for. And it was a reminder to me that oftentimes in life, the things we pray for become the things that we complain about if we let them. The house that you prayed for becomes the house that you complain about. The car that you dreamed of becomes the car that you want to trade in. The engagement ring that you lusted after becomes the one that you want to upgrade. All of these things in our lives, when we allow them to, become the things that we eventually complain about. And that moment, seeing that note on my desk, was the thing that snapped me back into the present and reminded me that, like, okay, but who am I actually? I'm not the person that gets annoyed at my toddler son for being a toddler. I'm the type of father who will sit there and play with him for a second and get him to calm down a little bit and help me clean up and support him in that moment. And it snapped me back. In a financial and professional world, I get sent offers and opportunities all the time that would be great financially, but require me to be away for 200 nights out of the year, or require me to sacrifice a little bit of character or integrity to do, you know, like, oh, you could go launch a meme coin and make a whole bunch of money and do some crazy thing, or you could do this or that, whatever all these opportunities are that come about. And I know in those moments that me going and doing one of those things that might require me to be away, or that might require me to jeopardize my character or integrity in some way, is not the type of thing that a person who coaches his son's sports teams would do. Because I never want to have to sacrifice my relationship with my son or his respect of me as a human being for something that I'm going and chasing, some shiny object. So in all of these moments, it just helps to have that thing right in front of you, to actually understand, in this season of my life, how does my ideal self show up in the world? And the last thing I'll say with this is, it is ripple creating into all other areas of my life. Meaning, it's not just about my relationship with my son. It's also just about the type of person that I am, that I prioritize these type of relationships. That could be friends, that could be my family, that could be my colleagues, the people that are really on these missions with me. It is about who I am as a person much more than just who I am as a father.
In the book, The 5 Types of Wealth, you kind of, if you guys have not read it, please read it. You can also listen to it. I think Sahil does a great job on the Audible as well.
That is so tiring, by the
Really?
way, recording an audiobook. I don't know if anyone's ever done a book, but like it was 4 days of 9 to 5 just reading in like a little box studio, like a little like coffin-sized studio. And I've just never thought about the fact that you don't read out loud for long periods of time.
Yeah.
And so the idea of reading out loud from 9 to 5 over and over again, anytime you stumble a little bit, they make you go back. There's all these words that you didn't realize you mispronounced, but apparently you do. I'm actually not joking. The word, so in the social wealth section, I talk about two of the pillars of social wealth being depth and then breadth, breadth and depth. And I must have had to say the word breath like 100 times because they kept saying, you're saying breath, like breathing. And I was like, you have to say breadth. And I was like, I don't know. I can't put a D in there. I don't know how to do that. Like, I don't know what to tell you. You're just going to have to let it go. You're going to have to AI edit this or something. It was ridiculous. I was like, this is nuts. This is nuts.
I love that. With this whole book launch, I think we were talking about this on LinkedIn, like, I don't know how to frame this any differently than why are you going so hard? If you guys don't know, I mean, I think this is a prime example of that, right? Him flying down here, talking to a group of folks. I think when we initially talked, it was going to be like 20 folks, right? And so him taking time out of his day to fly all the way down here to speak to 20 folks, and maybe it's just my own lens. I was like, this is so shocking. Like, but yeah, why are you going so hard with this?
I really care. I just, there's never been anything in my life that I've worked on that I've cared as much as I do about this message. And the reason is because I have felt the impact that this has had on my own life. And I want to see that out in the world. Like when I share things and when I write things on my newsletter or on social media or anywhere else, it's inherently impermanent. Like we all know this. If you're on social media, you put something out, even if it's incredible, it probably lasts for like 24 to 48 hours. And then eventually it's kind of gone, no matter how good it was. A book is permanent. Like that is something that you don't gift a newsletter to someone on their birthday or on Christmas. You don't, give someone a tweet or an Instagram post as a present. And if you send memes to your friends or you send cool posts that you've seen, they see it and then they're on to the next one. And having something out in the world that I feel like can help with creating these ripples, and something that I know fundamentally if people read it with an open mind and really take action on the ideas, it will change your life. That is not about me being so incredible, by the way. It is about the fact that taking action on this principle or these set of values is going to impact the way that you live. I don't care whether you attribute it to me in any way. I just want people to see that their life can improve through these actions, through measuring the right things and taking action on these things. That meant to me that I needed to do things differently. I have always fundamentally believed that if you want to achieve incredible outcomes, you have to be willing to do what other people are not willing to do. I was raised that way by my father and mother, that if you want an extraordinary outcome, you have to be willing to put in an extraordinary input. And that is just the reality. There's no shortcuts, there's no hacks, there's no tricks to it. You just have to be willing to do the work. And so with the book launch, that was the way we approached it. I mean, I truly believe that we did more than anyone has ever done on a book launch in terms of the inputs. I mean, I sent books out to people, and rather than just having the publisher send the books, which is what people normally do, I sat and hand wrote notes and marked spots in the books for 300 books that I was mailing out. I mean, that took 100 hours. Like, it just took forever to go and do that kind of thing and hand mail stuff. But it mattered, and it was doing the unscalable thing that has the scalable result in the end. The biggest part of that is doing things like this. where you actually get to meet people that are going to take the ideas and run with them in their own lives. This is how movements are actually built. You don't build a movement by like tossing something over the wall and just saying like, okay, cross my fingers, hope everyone goes and runs with it. You build a movement by actually interacting with people and by actually, hopefully, being the spark that helps the people go and do the things. That applies to you sending me a cold DM and responding to it. Like I don't have a team that manages my messages or my emails. It's me. And it takes forever. It's like I get a lot of messages and emails, but I respond to everything. Anyone in this room that wants to send me an email, like that's me on the email and I will reply to it. It might take me a few days, but I get back to everything. Those kind of things are what I fundamentally believe will allow me to create the impact that I want to go and create in the world. That is not about money. I like money, but I'm not, like if I had wanted to make a ton of money, I just would have stayed in private equity. That was a great path to go make a lot of money. I want to feel like the things I do matter and that they are having a positive impact on people's lives in the world. And that is why I am going so hard and that I want to continue to on this mission.
We could brag a bit. How have the results of the book launch gone?
It's been amazing. I have to remind myself of that because I need to read my own book actually because the I've read it many times, too many times. Right in the opening section, I talk about this idea of the arrival fallacy, that you kind of like build up this thing and then you get it and you reset to the next thing. And hitting the New York Times bestseller list was that thing for me. I really cared about it for one very personal, specific reason, which was my grandmother on my Indian side. I didn't know my dad's side of the family. They disowned him when he wanted to marry my mom, unfortunately. So my Indian side of my family was really my family. And my grandmother was 94 years old. I went and visited her in India. It was the last time I saw her before she passed away. And I told her about the book and that I was writing this book and it was going to come out in a year and a half or so at that time. And the first thing she said when I told her I was writing a book was New York Times. It was like the Indian, like, oh, you need the, like, you know, big name brand thing if you're gonna do this. And I told her, like, she asked that and I said, like, yes, I'm gonna do that. And so for the entire time, she passed away, unfortunately, October of 2023. And for the entire time after that, I was just like, I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna make good on that commitment. So I built it up in this really important way. And it was extremely emotional as a result when we did find out that it did hit the New York Times bestseller list. But the reset of like, okay, I did this thing that I had built up as being the summit, and then I woke up the next morning and my first thought that went through my head when I woke up the next morning, I kid you not, was not like, oh my God, I did this thing that was 4 years. It was, I wonder if I could hit it next week too. And then I was like, damn it, you've fallen victim to the exact thing that you said not to. But it has been amazing. I mean, now 200,000 or so copies have been sold around the world in the first month, which is just mind-blowing. And it has been on the New York Times bestseller list for the first 4 weeks, which was incredible. So very cool. Thank you.
I love that. I will open it up to some questions. Folks have questions. We'll go here and then here. Cool.
Well, first, I'd like to say, Casey, thank you so much for curating for awesome room together. Having Samuel here, can we give her a round of applause?
Yes.
Sahil, thank you so much for sharing your wisdom. My question for you is, there are 5 types of wealth that you focus on in your book. When we came in here, we had to sign little name tags and we had to pick one focus of wealth. 2-part question. 1, what's your focus of wealth? And 2, can we have it all? Can we have all 5? What's that look like for you?
So on the first, I think that it depends on the season of life that I'm in. There's this belief that balance is all about the days that I have just recently sort of fundamentally rejected. So when you think about the idea of balance, you've been led to believe that balance is about having a perfect balance on a daily basis. That like, okay, every single day has to be a perfect blend of personal time, health, family, work. You have to have all of those things. And if not, you got to get stressed because your life is out of balance and you need to like panic about that. That's not really what balance is. Balance is about the seasons, not the days. You are going to have seasons of unbalance that are in service of building towards a season of balance. And the important thing is to have an awareness of that when you're in it. I have just now come out of, or I'm on the back end of, a season of unbalance in my life. Traveling a ton, really leaning into all of this to try to have it out in the world to do the things that I think it can do. And I'm very focused now, to answer your question, on the balance and the social wealth that comes with that. In particular, just spending time again with my wife and son and my parents in the same way that I did before. Because we got away from that for a while. I mean, I was just traveling way too much. So last week we were in Florida, just the three of us, just to have like no work, nothing, just get to spend time together. To your second question, can you have it all at once? Yeah, absolutely. I don't think you can top 0.01% outcome in all of them all at once. But building towards a life where you do have all of them should be the goal that we are all working towards. I would separate that from saying that all of them need to be your focus all at once. I fundamentally believe that your whole life sort of exists on these dimmer switches, and you are going to have different seasons when you are focused on one or another. And the important point is that you don't allow any of them to be shut off. You are going to have a season of financial wealth building at some point in your life where you're trying to build that foundation. You'll probably have a season of social wealth when you really want to lean into your relationship with your children or with your parents as they get older. You may have one where you're refocused on mental wealth and finding your new purpose as you get sort of later on in your career or you're retiring. Those seasons sort of come and go, and the prioritization will change along them. And the important point is that you don't need to shut off or lose sight of any one area. You can continue to do the tiny daily actions in any of them, with the understanding that anything above zero compounds. So in your life, in all of these areas, a tiny daily investment is better than nothing. Really ambitious people are the worst at this, myself included, because we believe and we allow optimal to get in the way of beneficial. Over and over again, we say things like, I don't have an hour to work out, so I'm just not going to work out. Or, I don't have an hour to spend time with this person, so I'm not going to see them or text them. I don't have 2 hours for deep work, so I'm going to do email instead. And the reality is, like, a 15-minute walk is better than doing nothing. Sending the one text to the person or calling your mom for 2 minutes in the car ride that you have is better than doing nothing. Anything above zero compounds in all of these different areas of life.
Well, Sahil, I've really enjoyed your book. It was really good. My name is Nikki, by the way.
Nice to meet you.
And my question is really, what is the most underrated habit or mindset shift that has compounded your success in ways that you didn't initially expect? And I'm asking that because when I read your book, I was in the midst of making some habit changes because I was working hard, doing all the things, and literally like my health plummeted. And so now I've been, building up strong habits to ensure that doesn't happen again, and balancing. So this was perfect, reading your book, talking about all the different types of wealth. So I'm just curious to see what is your most underrated habit or mindset that really actually created a lot of success for you.
I would say that the Think Day concept, which is in the guide in the mental wealth section, is probably the single most impactful thing that I've done in my life. And the concept is basically that you take as a starting point an hour or 2 hours once a month and put yourself out of your normal environment. So like if you're used to just going from your office to home and those are kind of your two main spaces, go somewhere new, like go to a coffee shop, go outside, do something like that. And there's 8 thinking question prompts in the book, and basically bring a notebook or something and just jot down thoughts. Just spend time actually thinking about some of these bigger picture questions in your life. The reason that's so impactful is because the first time you do it, you will see your entire life in a new light. You will realize how little time you spend actually thinking about your life and about the things that you truly want, about the races that you want to run, about the things that you don't care about at all that you've been convinced you should care about. about the stupid comparisons that you've been wasting energy on, about the things you've been stressing on or creating anxiety around that don't matter. They're not actually core to what you're trying to do. Normally, we spend all of our time in this loop of stimulus and response, and it's just this perpetual loop. You just have things coming in, and then you're immediately responding. Everything's urgent. We all know that feeling. If you just give yourself an intervention of like an hour, 2 hours a month, to just zoom out and think about the bigger picture, create some sense of perspective on your life, you end up having the unlock that actually creates the big change. And I think without that, the habits you add, the things you do, the new actions you're taking are sort of all being made without the perspective that would actually inform what the best ones are going to be. So that's probably the number one thing that I would say has impacted my own life.
Thank you.
Echo the sentiments. Thank you, and thank you both. My name is Irena Sargent. I have a company called Clicky Wellness. I do burnout education and support. And so, from my own experience, I would say the more I learn, the more my eyes are open in positive and challenging ways. So, as you've talked to thousands of people, read tons of books, and learned about the types of is there any area that is somewhat of a concern or overlooked concern of culture that you have learned through this journey? And conversely, what makes you excited or optimistic about the future and the opportunities we have as a culture?
I would say I am deeply concerned about, I have like serious concerns about the world that my son is going to be an adult in as it relates to technology in particular. I think that our inability to spend time with other humans in person is probably the number one concern I have, and I think it just is getting compounded by technology and AI in particular. Teenagers are spending 70% less time in person with their friends than they were 2 decades ago. 70%. I mean, that's like, it's shocking. And you think about the ripple effect of that and your ability to actually interact and have those textured interactions. All of that, if you actually distill it and deconstruct it, it's all about the fact that we have obsessed over the reduction of friction from our lives. Everything in technology, if you look at it zoomed out, has been about removing friction from all of your daily experiences. Instacart removes friction. You don't have to go to the grocery store anymore. Or Uber, you don't have to hail down a cab. All of these things have reduced friction from our lives. In some times, that was great, and that has really helped in a lot of ways, and it's given us more time to spend time on the things that matter. But at some point, when you continue to remove friction, when you make it easier and easier to press the eject button on your life in anything, dating, relationships, like it's so easy at the touch of a button on your phone, you can have thousands of options. Well, as soon as a relationship gets a little bit not honeymoon phasey anymore, you just press the eject button, you can find something else. The hard thing that most people haven't realized around that is at some point you realize that the friction was actually what created meaning. And when you obsessively reduce friction from your life, you've actually sucked a lot of the meaning out of it along the way. And I think for our children, that is a scary thing to think about if you continue to play out the trend. I am hopeful on the other side of that it may act like a pendulum swing, where you kind of have like, yes, we are far on one end of it, but it will start to swing back. And I see seeds of that. I will say that like people are longing for in-person real interaction. People want to go to retreats and masterminds and actually do things like this, spend time with people in person. And I hope that trend continues, and I hope that we can sort of create guardrails around some of the technology that will help for the world that our kids grow up in.
We'll do one more. Audrey.
This has been so good. It's been so good. It's nice to meet you.
Oh, nice to meet you.
Thank you, Casey, for arranging this. I'm a person who, at some point in my life, was super social, and I find myself being part of that 70%, even though I'm not a teenager. And I find going outside creates friction for me because, I feel like as I become more successful, I'm around more people who are pretentious. About money and status and everything you just said. And it makes me just be like, I'd rather stay home with my husband, watch TV, and get me some food that's come to me.
I get it.
How do I like get back to a place of wanting to be more social, wanting to interact with people without having a guard up?
Yeah, first off, you're not alone. I feel that way too. I mean, I'm a big believer in like a barbell sort of approach to life, meaning the majority of your time is sort of spent on the like super antisocial side of just like recover. I'm sort of naturally introverted too, and so the like at home watch TV with your wife, like that for me is my happy place too. And then pick a few select things that you're really going to lean into on the social side. I think the key is you don't want to get caught in that like weird, annoying middle ground where you're out for like random cocktail events, mixers, networking events of like people that are going to be, it's going to be more of like flexing on what watch you have and the like weird, the things like, oh, I'm doing this. And, you know, it's basically Instagram, but in real life where people are just like, I did this, did you go to the Cayman Islands, whatever, like all that stuff. I don't have energy for that. And so I think the key there is like find your few people and really lean into those things rather than feeling the need that you have when you're younger to be friends with everyone. I mean, like my life fundamentally changed when I realized that like, I actually don't need that many friends. I really don't. Like I need my like, I basically think of life as like you get to pick a few missions in your life. And I have people that are on those missions with me and I kind of fuck with those people. And if you're not on a mission with me, that's cool. I still might have love for you. Like we can be friends, but like I'm probably not going to see you that much. And I have like friends from my childhood who were dear friends. I still consider them brothers. Like if they were in jail, I'd show up and bail them out. I'd be there. But we don't talk that much. We're not on a mission together. Like we don't have a whole lot in common anymore. And that's okay. And I think giving yourself a little bit of grace to recognize that like, I actually don't need that many people to really feel like my cup is full and to feel like people understand me and that they're vibing with me on these things. That's a really important unlock for your own, like mentally and spiritually.
That was great. Thank you.
Absolutely. And I should mention, I said this at the outset, everyone should feel free to send me an email, like anything that comes up or questions that I didn't get to answer. Sahil@sahilbloom.com. You can also just share it, send it out with everyone. Or like Instagram DMs, wherever. That's me on there. I don't have a team managing that, as I said. So I'd love to spend time and see all of you. And it's really exciting for me to get to see these ideas out in the world and people like all of you with the energy. I mean, I can feel it in a room. Like I do a lot of speaking stuff and you can kind of quickly tell whether people are actually there with you or whether they're just sort of like, I got dragged to this thing. I don't really care. Like, who's this guy that's talking to me? I really appreciate it. It means a lot to me that you all came out.
I love it. I got one quick like lightning round. And then we'll wrap it up. Are you good for like a couple photos?
Yeah,
and
let's
stuff
take some
after?
pictures. Yeah,
okay, so lightning round, and then feel free if you guys have books or what have you. This hair flip. How long does it take to?
How long does it take?
How long does this GQ look take?
No. 2 minutes. I get that question all the time. I mean, I had a buzz cut for most of my life, like playing baseball. Not long, fortunately.
Okay.
It's just cut that way. Like I wake up in the morning, people get pissed at me because like I do these cold plunges in the morning and I like do a video when I get in the cold plunge. And people think that I do my hair before getting into the cold plunge. And I don't know how to describe to them that like I just have weird hair where like my hair just kind of like sticks up. So like when I wake up in the morning, there's just like a poof to my hair that just sort of goes this way. Like if I comb it before bed, it's just gonna be in the same place. Like it doesn't move. And I don't sweat on my head, which is weird. Like I ran a marathon last September and at the end of the marathon, my head was like completely dry. Like my hair is like fully dry. Like it looked like it's crazy. I don't know what it is. It's probably like an actual medical issue that my head doesn't sweat. I'm just gonna ignore it.
I love it. Ultimate cheat meal. Let's say calories didn't count for 24 hours. What you eating?
Ben and Jerry's cookie dough ice cream. Yeah.
Okay.
For sure. Or like Cold Stone. I love Cold Stone. They don't really have them anymore, but Cold Stone, like cookie, don't you want some? Yeah, that was good.
Yeah.
That was good.
What's the story behind the name Roman?
So we had a family member recently deceased. This is technically actually not a family member. My mom's host family when she came to America, who we consider family, they had the great grandfather was a Auschwitz survivor, and his name was Roman, and he was an unbelievable spirit as a human being. He was about like 4'8". I'm not joking, like like a miniature human, and an unbelievably vibrant and resilient spirit. And there's traditions in both Indian and Jewish cultures to name after a recently deceased relative, and so the name Roman was what stuck.
Love that. Last one, Starbucks or Dunkin'?
Dunkin'. Yeah. I grew up in Boston. So I can't go Starbucks. I gotta, Although I just got this like at-home cold brew machine, which is amazing. I got like 800 Instagram ads for it, and I finally caved and spent the money on it, and it actually is pretty incredible. And so now I haven't been going to Dunkin' a whole lot. Just
really?
been making at-home cold brew. I'm cheating on Dunkin'.
I will say one thing about Atlanta. I don't know if you know this, but Atlanta culture, a specific Atlanta culture, some things that you got to do. Lemon pepper wings. Okay. I don't know if that's a thing. Wet, apparently. I'm new to Atlanta, so I'm still learning. Flats only. Yeah. Wet. Hookah is a really big thing. Yeah. And bottle service. Now, I was asking my team, like, what could we do? You know, he's in Atlanta. So we decided to get you some bottle service. So we got the bottle girls. We got some Dunkin'.
Oh, this is good. I love it. I can use it. It's good.
With that, and I heard back to back with your songs.
That is. That's good.
So,
I love it.
We appreciate
That's
you.
Good.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you so much. Thank you. That's so funny. Thank you.